Have you ever read the opening line of a book and been completely hooked? Immediately, from the very first line, you've been drawn in, your curiosity, your imagination has been sparked, and you can't wait to read on. Or have you read the opening line of a book and been completely turned off? You knew immediately, this isn't the book for me. In either case, opening lines are really important. In today's video, we're gonna talk about opening lines. What are some good opening lines and what makes them good? And what are some bad opening lines? I'll show you some examples. The reason why opening lines are so important is because people are very quick to pass judgment. And I don't blame them, their time is very valuable. The asset that we're all vying for, they're all competing for, is attention. So our book has to be better than Netflix, better than TV and movies, better than music and podcasts, better than going outside and hanging out with your friends. Our book has to capture that person's attention and say, read this book. This is more valuable use of your time than it is to do everything else. That is a huge ask. And in order to capture that person's attention, you really have to hook them in, and that starts with the opening sentence. So in order for us to really hook and draw our reader in, we need to understand broadly what attracts readers, what kind of captures consumer attention. And so, I'm no expert at this, but I've identified 4 things that I kind of like to strive for with my openers. And so we'll go through some examples and we'll look at, why some of these great examples work. So the first one is a dramatic or shocking statement. Something that is unexpected, something, maybe a juxtaposition, if you will, something that is against what their brain is telling them. So the first example is from 2001 A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. And it says, not every 13-year-old is accused of murder, brought to trial, and found guilty. So our brain immediately is captured because a 13-year-old, we're not usually associating them with murder. This one kind of challenges that and kind of draws us in. The second one is from Charles Williams in his book, War in Heaven. And it says, the telephone was ringing wildly, but without result, since there was no one in the room but the corpse. So here he's taken a very mundane thing like a telephone ringing in a room, but then he's provided this kind of shocking, dramatic element about a dead body in the room. Immediately captures our attention, draws us in. Okay, so the second thing that I've identified that kind of captures people's attention is something philosophical, something that makes their brain think in new ways. It challenges them and generates a sense of wonder and really makes them think about something in a new way. So this one's from Clive Barker in his book, Weave World, and it just states, nothing ever begins. So this is very philosophical in nature. It maybe makes you question, what does that even mean? It's kind of a head scratcher, right? And it's very simple, which I like. Another one is from Stephen King and Peter Straub, The Black House. And it says, right here and now, as an old friend used to say, we're in the fluent present, where clear-sightedness never guarantees perfect vision. I don't necessarily know what that means off the top. That's very philosophical in nature, so it kind of draws me in and it piques my curiosity and I want to find out more. Okay, so the third thing that captures readers' attention is something poetic, something that's beautifully written. So as with most writing, you want to sound poetic and pleasing, so you want those words to really flow effortlessly so people can kind of ease into the story. And so this one, I have an example from The Born Identity by Robert Ludlum that says, the trawler plunged into the angry swells of the dark, furious sea like an awkward animal trying desperately to break out of the impenetrable swamp. So it's got some really cool sounding words. It's a very poetic arrangement. I don't know, something about that just kind of appeals to me. Okay, so the fourth thing that really captures people's attention, according to me, in my opinion, is to, kind of similar with the philosophical theme, is to leave a question unanswered. Really make people go, So you want to, push people's curiosities and make them investigate further to kind of satisfy their curiosity. So the quote I have is from The Watchmen by the great Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. And it says, dog carcass in alley this morning, tire tread on burst stomach. This city is afraid of me. I have seen its true face. So that's kind of a question unanswered. A lot of things going on there. The second example I have is from To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, very famous book. When he was nearly 13, my brother Jem got his arm broken at the elbow. It makes me think, why did he get his arm broken at the elbow? It's a question unanswered. Okay, so the last one that kind of captures people's attention, according to me, and obviously this is not from a psychological standpoint, I didn't do any research, I'm just trying to think, is something that's simple. I think if you can have a very impactful statement and as few words as possible, that really captures my attention. It kind of brings me in. So I have some examples. The first one is from The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzek, and it says, "First, the colors." That's pretty interesting. First, the colors what? It's simple, it's provocative, I like it. Okay, so we talked about what makes a good opening line. We showed you some examples. Now let's discuss some bad examples, or what not to do. So the first one that comes to mind is being overly expository. Now I have an example here from The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by Frank Baum. And it says, "Dorothy lived in the midst of the great Kansas prairies with Uncle Henry, who was a farmer, and Aunt Em, who was a farmer's wife." Okay, all respect to Frank Baum, but this is overly expository. I don't know, it doesn't work for me as an opening line. It's too much information, I don't really care, it doesn't draw me in. The second thing that I don't like in an opening line is being too wordy. I want something that eases me into the story, it's very effortless, and it's intriguing or interesting. Here's an example, which I'll probably catch some slack for this, by this is probably one of the most famous opening lines of all time. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. It states, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity, and it was the season of light, it was the season of dark." Oh boy, it is like half of it. It goes on and on and on and on. I don't want to insult a classic, but I think modern writing has evolved to be a little more concise and really mindful of people's attention spans. And I don't know if that works today. If you write a big, lengthy intro that's comma after comma after comma, I don't think that's going to capture people's attention. Could be wrong. If you disagree with me, let me know, and I'm happy to discuss it with you. Okay, so the last thing that I came up with for bad opening lines is something that's confusing, and I have two examples. So this one comes from Werner Vinge, A Fire Upon the Deep, and it says, "How to explain, how to describe, even in the omniscience viewpoint quail." I mean, it doesn't work for me. It's confusing. I don't know what you're talking about, and it's not pulling me in because, I don't know, that's just me. But anyway, and then the next one is from Bridge to Terabithia by Catherine Peterson. So it's barum, 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 baripity, good. That's confusing, that's weird, doesn't work for me. I don't like it. Okay, so I've praised some very strong opening lines and I've criticized some classics. Let's take a look at some of my opening lines and to see how I stack up to these books and see what works well, and I kind of explain kind of my motivation behind some of them. Okay, so I went and got my books. Here are some of the books. I've got the Prodigy trilogy, Prodigy 1, 2, 3. I've got I Am Rome, I've got Eden, The Secret Manuscript, and The Art of the Hustle. So let's start with The Art of the Hustle, considering that was my very first book. And see what the opening line is. "If someone had told me when I was 17 that I'd be where I am today, I would not have believed them." All right, not bad. That was the prologue. Let me see what I did for the chapter 1. Chapter 1, opening line is, "I checked the time on my phone. I still had to wait another 15 minutes until lunch." Okay, nothing too exciting. I think the prologue was a little bit better. So that's The Art of the Hustle. Let's check out Prodigy. Okay, opening line of Prodigy. So this one actually has an intro. "The year 2030 was a significant turning point in human history. It was the beginning of the global catastrophe known as World War III." So I've done a little bit of a paragraph, but so yeah, I mean, as a question unanswered, it's very interesting. I mean, for me, I'm obviously biased. Let's go through I Am Rome. This is my book, I Am Rome. As you can see, it's about aliens. I love aliens. And so I wrote an alien book. So chapter 1, opening line, "Joe raced through the small town on his old Huffy BMX bike." Not amazing, not bad. Let's see what else. This is from my book, Eden. Chapter 1 is Amy chatted nervously before takeoff. So yeah, I'll say this. When you have the opening of a book in general, it's not really about opening lines, but opening a book in general, get as deep into the story as possible. So in this book, I've actually have 2 or 3 chapters written before, like this part that I just read you used to be chapter 3. The original 3 chapters was them, you know, planning their trip, saying goodbyes, going to the store, packing their bags, going to the airport. It was boring. So I just made the opening of chapter 3, chapter 1, and Amy chatted nervously before takeoff. Immediately we know there's a character named Amy. Immediately we know she's nervous and she's taking off to go somewhere. So that's that. I'll do one more. I'll leave the sequels out of it. This is the Secret Manuscript. This book is opening chapter 1. The Secret Manuscript states, Ben pulled a knife from his back pocket and extracted the blade. Now, I deliberately wrote that in a very deliberate way because he's actually in the back of a store opening a box. But the opening line kind of makes you think that he's in a fight or something like that. So opening lines are not just useful for the beginning of your book. They're actually useful for every chapter. Every chapter is an opportunity for a reader to drop off or to lose interest or to consume their attention with some other competing interest. When I'm reading, I pay particular attention to how an author will open a book and how they open each chapter. And sometimes I look at some of the greats, you know, like some of my favorites are John Grisham and Dan Brown, and see how they open their chapters and even how they end their chapters. I could probably do a whole other video with the ending of chapters. So one trick that I found with writing great opening lines is to actually start writing an opening paragraph first. And usually the last line that you write in that paragraph will make a really strong intro. It doesn't have to be the last line, but some line in that opening paragraph, just taken on its own without the context, is actually really engaging and can be really powerful. So try that technique. Sometimes you've already written the best opening line, you just didn't know it yet. Okay, so that's it for today's video. Tell me what you thought of it. What are some of your favorite lines? Leave them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos where I discuss writing, please hit the subscribe button. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.